Okay. Hey, this is Riley, host of the Sleep Experience Podcast. At the Sleep Experience Podcast, we interview health experts and teach our community how upgrading their sleep is one thing that they need to upgrade their biological code and maximize their performance in an effortless way by doing more with less. Do you want to become a productivity machine, have genius ideas automatically pop into your mind, stop feeling so stressed, build better relationships, and generate more income? Optimizing your deep sleep can do just that. Visit www.thesleepconsultant.com to learn more. My guest today is Stefan Andjelovic. Stefan is an entrepreneurial force behind For Your Success and FYS services, creating significant impact in the digital learning space with For Your Success, training over 500 students in the Netherlands and Belgium to earn full-time income online. Additionally, he also leads FYS services, offering tailored growth solutions for agencies, coaches, services, companies, and more. Under his guidance, FYS Services has helped over 100 companies focusing on quality and customized services. And as CEO, his expertise really lies in forming strategic partnerships and leading his dedicated team. Stefan, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. What an amazing intro. What an amazing intro. Wow. Wow. Thanks for having me. Thanks for having
Yeah,
me.
it's an honor to have you on, man. I think it's well deserved. I think everything you've done in the space, I've definitely heard from other people, what you've been able to achieve, and top of health too. I think it's really impressive to have you on, hear your story, and everything like that. I think will be a lot of value for the listeners. But to
Cheers.
start, what I'm really curious about your journey. Like, what was kind of your origin story? A little bit into the business side and into the health side, and where do the two kind of meet? And I know it's an open-ended question, but let's see where it goes.
100%. Yeah. So, first things first. Like I said, thanks for having me, Riley. It's an honor to be here and to share my experience with people surrounding health, but also business, because I feel like the two coincide a lot. They are really important because if you don't do the one thing, if you want to be a good businessman, you need to have good health, you need to have good performance, all the surrounding things. But just to circle back on my story, like I started, I come from I told you before we started the podcast, from the Balkans. So Serbia originally, and grown up in the Netherlands, where I basically did a personal trainer's. I got a certificate,
Mhm.
licensed personal trainer there, like 6, 7 years ago, and then I kind of got into the entire realm of entrepreneurship, but more or less, I would say more the health side of things with Gymshark, Alpha Lead, like those types of brands that were like popping in like 2015, 2016. And then I was like, wow, man, this is what I need to do. I need to start a clothing brand. So that's what I ended up doing. I started a clothing brand and thinking that I was going to be as big as Gymshark at the time,
Mhm.
looking at Ben Francis, Christian Guzman, those types of
Wow.
people, and really being inspired by them, starting that business while still at doing my bachelor's degree at the time. Then
Mhm.
when that kind of started, I was like focused. I'm gonna be the top fitness person in the Netherlands. Like that's gonna be my thing. So what I then ended up doing is I created a something called the Fit Group Netherlands,
Mhm.
and with also two other people. So that was kind of my first, I want to say, like side hustle where I earned money from. And then I thought to myself, wow, I'm 18 years old, 19 years old. I, you know, I'm not a bodybuilder. I'm probably not going to be that. Like that's not going to be my end goal. But I can impact so many people. I can help so many people when it comes to health. I can impact so many people and create an entire business because I found myself to be, in my early ages and all those things, a person who doesn't, I didn't have the best genetics to, become like, do like competitions or something like that. I wasn't the person to really instinctively basically say, okay, I'm going to go towards something. But then when I found
Mhm.
health, I was like, okay, my mission is to help other people in what sense that might be, right? Whether it be
Mhm.
on personal training them or on getting them something, clothing where they feel happy. It could have been multiple directions that I could have taken, but
Mhm.
the reason why fitness and health inspired me so much is because you feel better the moment after you've done it,
Yeah.
and that's when I thought to myself, wow, if I can make sure that I personally am feeling good, and then the rest will come. I will be making better
Yeah.
decisions. I will be thinking well. I will be doing all the remaining things. So when that kind of continued, I realized, okay, I can make money from, personal training people and all those things, but if I really want to make an impact, I need to do something bigger, learn something bigger. And then it was kind of the marketing side of things of that I
Mm.
started learning, that I started implementing because I needed it for my own clothing brand, right? And then once I started doing that, I was like, wow, marketing is really big. Like I can
Mm.
do, and then I understood like, okay, Ben Francis from Gymshark, Christian
Yeah.
Guzman, all these people, they aren't just personal trainers or like doing competitions. They're businessmen first and marketeers
Mm.
second. And
Mm.
when I understood that, I was like, wow, okay,
Yeah.
that's what I want to be now, right? That's what I want to go
Amazing.
to, and that's what I want to get set up. So
Yeah.
that's kind of how it started. Like I was just always passionate about fitness. I did judo for like 10 years.
Mm.
I did a lot of different sports basically when I was a kid, because I loved doing something.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's kind of the origin of the story to get it started with, and then it kind of went into marketing. And yeah, then we basically went into that. I say we because I did it with one of my partners
Mm.
at the time where I started, with one of my best friends from elementary school. Like
Mm.
we've known each other since 5 years old.
Those
And
are
then
great.
we started. Yeah, that was amazing, and we're still friends to this day, still working
Wow.
together. We started basically the business, which is now For Success Services. That
Mm.
was 5 years ago. And yeah, that basically has grown into a business where we now have helped more than 100 businesses in itself,
Mm.
and an education part where we've educated about 400 people in the Dutch and Belgian market, and
Mm.
teaching them how to start and grow their own business, where marketing is the biggest component, but also mindset and health, which
Yeah.
is why, of course, our connection, Riley, which we've made, has been really beneficial in that sense, getting to know the nitty gritty type of things in terms of what you're doing with your clients as well, and
Mm.
the clients that we're helping on that end, because we notice the biggest issue with entrepreneurship is not usually the strategies. I mean, you need to
Mm.
know the strategies, but I would say like it's the Pareto principle, 80-20, sometimes even
Yeah.
90-10. It's 90% is I would say mindset, and it's
Mm.
health, and it's the inner inputs that you will give yourself, and the rest is the 10% is basically the strategies or the other inputs that you need to give yourself to be able to succeed. Because at the end of the
Mm.
day, if you can think clearly, if you can make better decisions, which comes
Yeah.
from your inputs, your environment, your sleep, your everything surrounding that, the rest
Yeah.
will become easier. So
Yeah.
I'm already talking about a lot of things, just in a
Mm-hmm.
nutshell. But yeah, I just think it's really important and really great what you're doing as well with the people that you're coaching and helping. In that sense, that you're actually, you're not only just doing it for yourself for the short term, you're doing it for the long term, the longevity of it,
Yeah.
feeling better as a person, feeling, perhaps even adding, years to your life, which someone
Mm.
like Gary Brecka always talks about,
Mm.
just adding years to your life. By getting more sun, by getting better food in yourself that doesn't cause inflammation in your stomach and all those things. But I guess that's a lot of things that we can talk about. So that was kind of the hopefully the answer to your question. Kind of a background story in terms of where I came from, what I've been doing, and yeah, where it's at right now.
Awesome, man. Yeah, that's amazing and so fascinating, that origin story, and the fact that like when you're 18 and also training judo and you're doing your undergrad degree and doing all this at the same time, and just your wise ambitions and bringing it all together, that's that's truly amazing. Also, what you said about people focusing on their health, and when you take care of those internal inputs, the external outputs are just like so much easier. Like you can read business tactics all day and night, but if you can't focus, if you got brain fog, if you can't sit down, or you're distracted, or you don't have clarity, you can't make the right decisions, or like you're on sales calls or anything like that, it's very difficult to be an entrepreneur. It's really an uphill battle. We're constantly climbing this mountain when it can truly be like Bradley Cooper Limitless, where you feel just like this flow and you're locked in, and just stuff becomes just so much easier. And I've seen it time and time again. I'm sure you have as well. I was wondering, when like the kind of people you work with, is it usually people who are brand new into the entrepreneurial space, or do you work with people more intermediate or advanced?
It's a great question. So, and basically, I love the movie Limitless, by the way, Bradley Cooper. I love it. And that's basically what I always talk about, like the flow, right? Like getting into the flow
Mm.
and zoned in and all those things. But that's a story for for a different time. In terms of, we're working with kind of two audiences, I would say. we're working on one end with more or less people that have a 9 to 5 job that want to get started in business, that read mindset books, because usually always people say like, oh, they start off with like Think and Grow Rich, right?
Sure.
Like all those
Yeah.
usual books basically that they start with. Then they get into mindset, they start learning more about it, but they're still unaware of how things you kind of go hand in hand when it comes to business and personal things. So we make them aware of the importance of, and that doesn't just go into like, okay, you need to sleep better, you need to eat better. It goes also into who's your I call it like the inner circle. Who are
Yeah.
the 5 people that you surround yourself with most of the time? Because it's a cliche, but like that's what you're going to be ending up as, right? You're going to have some things that you're going to be taking from those people and ending up
Sure.
creating your own self. But also, who do you want to become? Like,
Yeah.
what's the person, who is the person that you want to see in the next 5 to 10 years and that you
Yeah.
want to become, right? Like that's also
Sure.
something that we talk about with this audience. Now
Yeah.
for our for success services audience, we of course work with e-commerce brands and coaches. Those are mostly the people that we work with. And when it comes to these people, just as people like yourself, they are already more advanced, in terms of like knowing that the things they do personally, or the things they the inputs that they get are really important to get the results that they can get. Because just a small decision or just feeling a little bit more better during a sales call will
Yeah.
make sure that the conversion goes up. Well, that's one thing.
Yeah.
But the second thing is also, you of course, if you're feeling well, you're going to make better decisions overall. But it's also, then it's a strategy. It's like, okay, so what do you say then? Right. So how
Mm.
can you convert more people? How can you systemize things? How can you delegate things? How can you make sure that the business is up and running smoothly? For example, we're working with a coach who helps people writing books, right? Like aspiring
Cool.
authors write books and sell it on Amazon. And with his specific audience, it's and with him as well, it's he knows business. He
Mm.
understands it. But the thing is, how can we do it more efficient with the time that we have? How can
Yeah.
we make it more systemized so he can focus more on helping people instead of having to do all the things
Mm.
that he doesn't want to do, which is usually marketing that needs to be done,
Yeah.
and all the other things mentioned in the business. But yeah, so to answer your question, we work with both audiences, and what I do notice is that um, since being an entrepreneur myself for the past 4 or 5 years, I just love the understanding of the people that are already in business. But I also like to make people aware, that aren't in business, how it works, because then it's like, wow,
Mhm.
it's like a paradigm shift for them. It's like,
Yeah.
what was this? Like, I've
Yeah.
never heard about these things. And
Mhm.
then they improve their life. And you see, we have one I call him a kid, but he joined our program when he was 14 years old 3 years ago.
14.
So 14 years old. And
Mm.
he really wanted to join our program. He really wanted to go into it. And when he joined, he was just a kid. Like, you could hear it in his
Mm.
voice. Like, he was just a kid. And now,
Beautiful.
3 years later, with our newest program, he has evolved. He's really evolved. Like, you can
Mm.
not only in his voice, of course, because he was 14, now he's 17, but he's got clients. He's
Wow.
knows what he's talking about now. He's just next level in terms of what the growth that he's been making. And with, I would say, like with business owners, like of course they can make a growth, but they're already here. So for them to go to
Mm.
here and here, it's a
Yeah.
much smaller big difference. But for someone to go here and here, it's a
Massive.
big difference. It's a massive difference. So that's kind of something that I just enjoy working with both. And I think
Mm.
I'm just a little bit business obsessed when it comes to that, because
Yeah.
also one thing, when we got in touch, I told you, like, I'm working so much. I'm working 6 7 days a week, but it's just
Mm.
because I love to do it, right? Which
Yeah. Pure
also
passion.
is also kind of the downfall of being an entrepreneur, which is you can work too much, right? Too
Yes.
much time, too much effort, too much energy, and not taking the balance to
Yes.
and understanding the balance of taking one day off, for example. And
Hmm.
the hustle hard mentality kind of then comes in, and it's like, oh, let
Yeah.
me do more work and let me do more, and it starts piling up, and then you all of a
Yeah.
sudden you start getting headaches, you start feeling dizzy, you start to the extreme, almost getting burnout symptoms, like.
Yeah.
And those are things I think entrepreneurs need to be really aware of, which is of
Hmm.
course where you help a lot of people with as well, Riley. It's just becoming aware of that, because it's not only a skill to be a good business person, it's also a
Hmm.
skill to know how to actively and passively take rest and
Hmm.
combine those both, either in your daily routine or on a day off that you have as well, which is something I noticed also with especially the business people that
Mhm.
we're working with, and with myself, to be honest. Like I've had, these symptoms I would say like 3 times in the first 3 years that I started. Luckily, the
Mm.
past 2 years not, but because
Yeah.
I've learned how to do it. But it's just difficult, I think, for people because they always want more. There's never an
Mhm.
end. It's always more,
Yeah.
more, more. So yeah.
There's so much that's going on at one time, and it's a bittersweet curse of being an entrepreneur, right? We want to do so much, but the reason we got into entrepreneurship is sometimes for that freedom. We picture ourselves as having all this free time, but then when we're actually in it, we sometimes like the hustle and grind so much that we kind of forget the reason why we got into it in the first place. But I think, yeah, like building systems in your business, like you're helping clients with, so you can kind of offload that time so you have more time for the higher ROI tasks and activities in your business, and then focusing on your health so the time you do have is just like way more efficient to be executed, and you can get deep work like an 8-hour day done in 4 hours. Like the list just goes on, and you combine those two, like you're getting into some pretty sweet territory, and kind of like effortlessly getting to the top of your competition without having to grind all the time. And I think that there's definitely parts for it, but I think it's coming from a place of like, is that a crutch or is that something that's sustainable? And everyone has to go through this. Like no entrepreneur can, shortcut the process, or skip the process, I should say, but they can't shortcut it by learning, skills, knowledge, and stuff like that to absolutely do that. I was curious with you, with people that you work with, maybe beginner entrepreneurs, more advanced entrepreneurs, what are the biggest things that stress them out, or the biggest things that are taking a toll on their performance or overall health?
That's a good question. So when we work with them, we notice that there's just especially with like a lot of different like entrepreneurs that we work with, because the scale goes from someone doing, I don't know, like 500,000 per month to someone doing perhaps like 20,000, 30,000 per month.
Mm,
So there's a big difference in that sense. We do notice that a lot of people, when we get started with them, it's just it's either it's usually like a pure like chaos when it comes to their
yeah,
business. And then when I look at that, I'm like, well, if your business is like this, how are your personal things?
yeah,
So how because those two are combined. It's like if you
yeah.
do things here, you're gonna do it here probably as well. So then we usually what I notice myself doing is with when coming into them is when starting to work with them is that they don't have it visual. So what I like to do
Mm,
is I'm a very visual type of person. So what I do is I
sure.
work with Miro board,
Yeah.
and what I do is I lay out their entire foundation in terms of from the beginning to the end. So what I mean with beginning to the end is their business wise, right? So there's like
Mm,
two things that we do. There's their life, right? They're basically their business and everything
sure.
that comes into their profession, but there's
Yeah.
also their performance. So there's two things that we need to talk about. Now, if I notice that which is usually not really the case, because the entrepreneurs that we usually work with are like high performing, but they
Mm,
do want to optimize those things as well. So we sometimes help them with that. Like for example, I wear the Aura Ring, right?
yeah.
And then I tell them like, hey, or sometimes I even get a client like a Aura Ring. I say like because we ask like in terms of our onboarding, we ask them when their birthday is. So
Mm,
then they ask then they say and their address as well, right? So then when the time comes and it's their birthday and they get something from us, then it's like, wow, what did you send me? I'm like, yeah, there you go, that's your gift, right, for the great partnership that we have.
rest is
So it's just
history.
something that I like to do in terms of just building the connection with them and giving them something they can use, which is
Cool.
kind of the thing that still backtracks to my personal training days, which is I don't want to just improve your business. I want to
Mm,
improve your performance as well. I want to make you a better person. I want to do this business with you for the next 5, 10, 20 years, right? if,
yeah.
if if it's a good fit. So then when it comes to that, so what I usually do notice is that it's a chaos. And what I mean with chaos is no clarity, no real clarity visually, because in their mind they have all these ideas, but it's difficult to put it on a paper. So
Mm,
what we do is we kind of act as a chief operating officer and a chief marketing officer for their business, so they can be the CEO having all the ideas, but we put things pen to paper, and then we
mm,
put it down. So it's like the offer, it's the structure of your team, It's
Yeah.
what do you want to achieve? What are your goals? Where do you want to go to? Because if you don't have like a North Star, you don't know where you want to go to. And then
Yeah.
it's like we lay out the things that actually need to be done. Your
Yeah.
content strategy, your paid ad strategy, everything surrounding your funnels and all those
Yeah.
things. So it's the chaos. That's kind of what I noticed the most.
Wow.
And then it's like, wow, I'm already doing half a million. And I come in and I'm like, but you do understand that if you fix these things, if you get the structure down, not only in a Miro board for that, but also your just a simple thing that I also always like to say to people. When I look, I always say like if I look into your Google Drive folders, or if you have some
Mm.
type of folders, or if I look at how you're utilizing that, I can
Yeah.
know what type of person you are and how efficient you are working. If I see
Mm.
that you have clutter all over the place,
Yeah.
it means that you are probably not doing the most efficient things that you could be doing to get 100% out of your day and out of yourself. So those
Mm.
small things are things that I sometimes also say to them. I say like, okay, well, I notice it's a chaos. Then I say to them, okay, show me this, show me your drive,
Yeah.
show me your Google Drive, show
Smart.
me your inbox.
Yeah.
Right, that's a big one. Show me your email
Massive.
inbox. And then I see
Yeah.
their email inbox. I'm like, dude, you can basically get a VA for three to
Yeah.
four dollars an hour and have them do that for you. I have someone checking my inbox 3 times a day
Hmm.
and sorting basically all my emails to one specific label where I just need to check. For example, if an invoice needs to be paid, I check it. The only thing I
Sure.
do is I drag it to a second folder and then my
Mm.
VA pays it. That's it.
Wow.
Like those small things and working that efficiently just
Yeah.
make sure that things don't break, one.
Yeah.
And second, you can do other things more efficiently because these things have been taken care of, right?
Yeah.
So there's two sides of the story, but that's exactly what we sensed. In the beginning we were just running ads for clients, and then it was like,
Mm.
dude, you cannot just run ads because their entire business is a chaos. Then it's like, okay, let us have us run your entire business, do it that way. And that's when we became more of a boutique agency instead of just taking
Mm.
all types of clients, working with a select few type of clients, helping them fixing their business overall, and just
Mm.
working more closely with them, with me more
Yeah.
involved as the CEO of my business, but as a COO in their business. And then having my colleague Kaho, who is more of a CMO. He takes care of
Mm.
all the marketing things, but we together, set up the entire structure, help them with that so they don't have to do it. And then we
Yeah.
can focus more on the things that are necessary for their business whilst they can improve on brainstorming ideas, being the real CEO and having the vision and making that vision more clear for themselves without having to go into Miro and set up all the things. That's what we do, right? So yeah,
Wow.
hopefully that gives a better view. But that's what I notice usually. And with some entrepreneurs, they already have structure; they don't have
Yeah.
chaos. And with them, it's just like, okay, that with them it's just like, okay, how do I find the time to do the things that you guys need from me, which is
Mm.
creating the ads, creating other things. But we help them a lot with that, of course. Like we have editors in place, you name it. But it's just like, okay, how can I some of them don't even have a clear niche. Like they don't have
Mm.
a niche, and they have an offer, but it's not
Yeah.
clear because they don't have cut to the chase, like niche, like what's your niche, and then they
Sure.
don't know. So that those are kind of also the things that we see, which is they don't have the small things. They look at the bigger picture, which is why they're making so much money, but
Mm.
they don't see the smaller thing, the micro things. Sometimes you need to also look at the micro before you start focusing again on the macro, because the micro is going to make the macro also more efficient, if that makes sense.
Mm. Brilliant, man. I love this. All super hyper optimized and
Yeah.
extremely robust and dropping value bombs here. Shifting gears a little bit, I'm really curious about health. Personally, for you, what are kind of your favorite health tips that have worked for you in the past, or maybe have not worked for you in the past? It could have been over the last year or last couple of years.
It's a great question. So one thing that I do notice, which might be a funny thing, like I have my coffee here, and the thing
Mm.
is, like I noticed that especially sounds like I'm an old grandpa when I'm going to say this, Riley. But when I'm getting older, like I'm 27, when I'm getting older, like I noticed like 6 years ago I could eat things, I could digest things really quickly. When I start getting older, it's like I notice things more quickly. Like I
Mm.
notice the things that I eat and that I put into myself and the inputs that I have a bigger effect on me than it did like a long time ago. To give
Mm.
you an example, I'm drinking this with coconut milk, and I
Mm.
just started drinking this a couple of months. Before that
Mm.
I was drinking like lactose free like milk, and then before that I was drinking just normal milk. Well, you don't
Mm.
want to know how often I went to the toilet. Like, it was crazy.
Oh, interesting.
Um, yeah. So what I then noticed, I was talking with a good friend of mine, Andy, and we were talking about inflammation, the gut inflammation, right? The
Hmm.
specific bacteria in your gut, because the thing is, we as a people are also a system, and when we look at our system, the specific system in our gut, in our microbiomes, basically, and all those things, and
Sure.
specific enzymes that are there, they will affect the outer, our outer skin, basically. It will show in our skin. What happens
Mm.
in here will show outwards as well, which is the same thing within business. If you put something in, expect to get
Yeah.
something out. So it's all inputs, outputs. But when it comes to that, what I've noticed is just, it's really important to be aware of what you put into yourself, because as an entrepreneur,
Mm.
you're more likely to say, oh, I forgot to eat today. I
Mhm.
sometimes have that, like, you forget to eat, and then it's like, oh, let me just order a pizza real quick, or let me do
Mhm.
this, or let me do that, right? And that just doesn't work. So what does work is, for me, what's been a game changer, it's just planning things out in my calendar when I'm eating it. And then
Mm.
when I'm eating it, I just eat, I just focus on eating. But it's also important to be aware of what it does with you. So what I've started to notice is, when I eat, for example, when I drink normal milk, it affects me. Like, it affects me with even with my mind, with my thinking, and all those things, because it causes inflammation.
Mhm.
With coconut milk, being lactose free, gluten free, dairy free, all those things, it's basically, I mean, it's not that I'm going to drink like 10 coffees a day, which is not good as well. But
Mhm.
when I drink my one cup of coffee a day, it's more, I feel better. I can
Yeah.
do more things, right? So that's by kind of been one thing that I would recommend for everyone that's watching this, and if they're an entrepreneur as well. Like, be more aware of what you put in yourself, but plan the
Mhm.
things which you think that will benefit yourself, even if it's like small things. It doesn't really matter. I've always sticked to a high protein diet,
Mhm.
because like I said, I train still these days. I try to get the right inputs in myself as well. So high protein diet, good fats, not saturated fats, and like this, the simple, like, carbohydrates. Eating complex carbohydrates like rice, pastas, or like anything like that. So what I like to do is, I like to eat 2 meals a day.
Mhm.
And one hack that I've been using for the past like couple of years is intermittent fasting,
Mm.
right? So intermittent fasting is one of the things that has helped me tremendously well with becoming more productive and getting more work done. It's
Yeah.
not easy in the beginning. It's really not easy. But what I've noticed is this: when I fast until like 3 p.m., so which
Mhm.
which would mean then I would eat only at 3 p.m. and at like 6 p.m., so 2 meals,
Mhm.
right? So I would eat 2 meals, get all my calories in, and then I wouldn't eat for like, ballpark, like 20 to 21 hours,
Mhm.
right? So from 6 p.m. until the next day, like 3 p.m., I wouldn't eat anything. What I
Mhm.
notice is that at 1 p.m., 2 p.m., 3 p.m., usually when you get that dip, right? When you eat like carbohydrates or have like breakfast in the morning, I don't
Sure.
have that anymore. I'm just fully
Interesting.
focused, right?
Yeah. Clean
So
source of
I can
energy.
basically, exactly, man, 100% a great source of energy. So I wake up at like 6, I can work 9 hours,
Hmm.
right? I can work 9 hours and be in full
Yeah.
focus, because there's nothing like, my stomach won't be focusing, or my body won't be focusing as a system on digesting the food in my stomach. It will be
Yeah.
focusing on giving more blood to my brain, because I'm trying to focus on specific tasks that need to be done for that day.
Yeah.
So, like I said, becoming more aware. So planning your food, really
Mhm.
important. Now, I'm a person, I can eat the same thing with a thumbs up every single day, the same thing every single day, and get that, going. That's not
Mhm.
hard for me. Some people have issues with that, but I would say mix it up a little bit. You can eat different
Yeah.
things, every single day, and still keep it like, but it's just, you got to plan it out. So every Sunday, I plan out my food that I'm going to eat,
Mhm.
during the week. For me, it's really easy, because it's the same thing every single day, because I've made sure that I get all my micronutrients, macronutrients in, and that I eat efficiently, right? So I can perform
Mm.
better. So that's one thing that I try to do, and basically just keep at it. I became more aware of what I put in myself.
Yeah.
So I've talked about like dairy, but
Yeah.
gluten is also one of those things. One of those things is also salt, like foods high
Mm.
in salt. That's
Yeah.
also like really, because I don't know, I'm just really sensitive to those things. For me, it's like,
Mm.
if I eat just a little bit more salt before I go to bed or before I go to
Yeah.
sleep, I can drink like 5 liters of water. It won't like, my thirst will still be there. right? So I
Mm.
switched that up. I changed that as
Mm.
well. I listened to my body, changed that up as well. So becoming more aware of your body, trying out things like intermittent fasting, which could be really beneficial, right?
Yeah.
Especially because of your like blood sugar levels and all those things, and it really really helps. So definitely looking into that. And the last thing I would say in terms of health, I mean, I have so many things of health, Riley. You already
Hmm.
hear it, but the last thing, to not make it too long, is of course the Oura ring. It's in itself, right?
Yes.
Now these days you have the Oura ring, you have a Whoop, like WHOOP. I haven't used
Mm.
that particularly myself. You of course also have the Apple Watch and all those things. Haven't used that myself as well. But from what I've seen, is the Oura ring is definitely the most accurate when it comes to tracking your sleep and doing all those things. Now,
Mm.
one thing is getting good sleep. The other thing is optimizing your sleep when it's already good. So
Mm.
for me, it's been a case of like I get almost all the days I get king stats on readiness, and for the people that don't
Mm.
have an Oura ring, it just means that in Oura ring's eyes you've slept really good, and then or you are ready for the day to take on the day. For me, it's always been like that, but I do notice that when I try to sleep a little bit less, or when I try to test that, I just
Mm.
notice that for me personally, it just doesn't work. It just goes into a
Mm.
mode of that's when I get into the burnout stages, right? Then it's like
Got it.
because I work so much, I don't sleep well, and it shows, and then I can backtrack. Okay, I reverse engineer it. I didn't
Mm.
sleep well. That causes this, cause and effect.
Yes.
So when I do sleep well, which is the case, this year specifically, is I can just do so much more. I can think more clearly, plan those things, and I have the energy to do those things. So
Yeah.
sleep and taking care of yourself in that sense, and not only just sleeping, because you can sleep for 9 hours, get a lot of sleep in, but not sleep good. There's a difference between sleeping long and sleeping good.
Mm.
For me, it's getting good enough REM sleep, good enough deep sleep, good enough, and the light sleep. Just trying to put that, which just comes to the night routine. How good is your night
Sure.
routine, and how good are you doing that? Which is something I've been focusing more on, and I notice every single time that I do that, it just becomes better and better. I just start performing better. I just start getting better results, and doing that, which is something I know you're doing as well with your clients, right? Like an in-depth, analysis in terms of that, which is great, really important because if you can do that, you might work 2 hours less per day,
Mm.
but the 2 hours that you're going to get in that sleep are going to be beneficial for the next day, where you can work perhaps 3 more hours or focus
Yeah.
more in the 3 hours that you are working. So
Yeah.
that's kind of the mindset when it comes down to sleep. But those would be kind of the four things. I have a lot more, Riley, but I don't want to make this, a really long
Love
podcast.
it,
But
man.
those would be the four main things I would say.
I really like it, man. Yeah, it's really super invaluable insights and just combining this holistic approach between business and health. Any last words of wisdom for our listeners before we close things off today?
Yeah, 100%. I would say, and that's not just because I'm saying it, but what Wiley's doing, and then in terms of helping people with, sleep consultant, I think it's just, man, if people can just understand that it's all about longevity. It's all about longevity and how you the inputs are just so important. So if you can, if you are an entrepreneur and you're busy, you don't have the time to focus in on these things, because for me it's like I have a background in personal training. I
Mm.
in all that sense, like I those things that I'm doing are really beneficial, but it's also good, working and talking with people like Riley to get a sense of, okay, how can we optimize this even more? And if you are an entrepreneur, you should be focusing on that as well, because that can eventually also impact your business. So I would
Mm.
just say, check out, definitely check out more of what Riley is doing, because he's, all the things that I've said were, I would say, like, important, but he just goes in, like, he takes it a step further. Like, it's like a really big step further. So I would definitely check him out in that sense. But in terms of overall tips, um, yeah, I would just say, like if you don't have an Oura ring, just get an Oura ring. That would
Mm.
be like the first step. Like, just do that. Start with tracking your sleep. Start with looking at how you sleep, understanding that, because it's not much different than your cash flow that you're getting in with your business. It's just
Mm.
other numbers, and it's your sleep. So have
Yeah.
something to track, have some data, then you can work with it, and then you can see where it takes you from there. But yeah, make sure that you understand that your performance will impact your business, and get started on that today. Don't wait, because if you start with it today, it can eventually, give you 5 more years to live, 10 more years to
Mm.
live. Like, that's not a joke, right? It's something that you can actively work on. And definitely, if you're looking for more info, like, I would definitely like reach out to Riley, not just saying that to say it, but just also because he's an amazing person, and I think you could definitely benefit from that. So that would be my tip.
Love it, Stefan. Thank you so much for coming on today. I really appreciate it. And if people want to learn more about you, where can they visit?
100%. So they can visit. So there's multiple ways that you can basically visit me. But if you look up my name on YouTube, you can basically look at our content. We were in the Dutch market for a long time, but now we started in December to basically, I don't know when this will be live, but in December 2023, we started in the English market. So if you ever want to learn more about me or what we do, check out my YouTube channel. Other than that, you can find me at fys-media.com. That's basically what we do in terms of our business, and you can always get in touch with me through there. But the best place would be my YouTube channel, where you can find more information.
Amazing. And we'll put all that down in the show notes below. Thank you again, Stefan. Really appreciate it. And thank you guys so much for tuning in today. And I hope you enjoyed the show. If you'd like to learn more about how sleep can benefit your personal business life, visit thesleepconsultant.com. Until next time.